final patch of Season 14 is here, so let's get you guys set up with 3 of the best champions to climb with for every single role. And do you remember when knowing how to set up a freeze in low elo made you special? These days, you're considered a troll if you don't know what a freeze is. Problem is, challengers are so out of touch with the fact that everyone in low elo has improved, so if you ask for help, you just keep getting the same outdated advice. Or even worse, they give you tips that only work in high elo. Like how you should sync up your wave crashes with your teammates in multiple lanes to set up invades or objective priority. The theoretically correct play is usually not what actually works in your own elo. Oftentimes, it's something that may seem out of the ordinary, like split pushing as an ADC that will give you way more agency. We teach you the correct way to play League like everyone else does, but also the adaptations that actually work in your elo. So you'll always have multiple great ideas for what to do to win games. We're constantly producing and updating our strategies with players getting better, so SkillCapped is by far the best platform for learning League of Legends. We're so confident that if you don't climb 5 divisions while actively using SkillCapped, you can claim a full refund. Our service has zero risk with the potential to save you tons of time in your climb, so make sure to give us a try. One champ we're pretty surprised to avoid nerfs for this patch and who should be in your champion pool for top lane is Maokai. Maokai has always had a pretty good win rate for top lane, but it's only been over these past 2 patches where that's translated into seeing more play. Maokai is being spammed right now over in Korean solo queue as he has the highest play rate for any top lane champ, even greater than Mbessa. Generally, when a champ has such a high play rate, their win rate suffers as a result of new players picking up the champ, but that's not the case at all with Maokai right now, as he not only has the highest play rate for any top laner in Korea, but the highest win rate as well. Mao is just super easy to be incredibly impactful with due to his reliable crowd control and tankiness. Lane phase with Maokai is pretty solid due to his harass power from Q, and the gank assist is unmatched due to the point-and-click route from W. Once you get your core build on Maokai, he becomes so difficult to kill because of all the healing and shielding he receives. Unending Despair, Winter's Approach, and Spirit Visage are the 3 core items for Maokai, and they all tied together and synergize so well with each other. AP tops with strong, consistent DPS power are who Maokai struggles against the most, so banning out Mordekaiser or Gwen is good value. The optimal rune page for Maokai consists of Grasp with Demolish, Second Wind, and Overgrowth, while Biscuits and Cosmic Insight are for secondaries. Tank top laners are just really good right now in meta, and taking home our second solo carry spot for the patch is Malphite. Maokai is definitely the better blind pick tank right now, but if you have both champs in your pool and can pull out Malphite in the correct spots, he's a super strong pick. Where Malphite really excels is when the enemy comp locks in a few auto attack reliant champs because he gets so much value out of his E attack speed slow. Malphite absolutely steamrolls matchups like Aurelia, Tryndamere, Fiora, Yone, Gnar, and Jax. As much as Malphite has some really favored matchups, he also has a few dreadful ones too. Avoiding Mord and Silas is a must when playing Malphite, as both champs nullify a lot of Mal's strength. Build that you should be running on Malphite for most games is a Sunfire Rush into Thornmail second, and Canik Rookern or Frozen Heart third. For the rune page, look to grab Comet with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, while Second Wind and Overgrowth are the best secondaries. With Mbessa dropping out of the top 3 for this patch due to her nerfs, an alternative fighter top laner who's really strong right now is Aatrox. Over the past couple of patches, we've seen a new carry build emerge on Aatrox, and it's giving him a lot of solo carry power. You rush Spear of Shojin and then go Voltaic Cyclo Sword second for a really great mix of durability, haste, and damage. Top it all off, you go Cyrilda's Grudge third, and with this core, the enemy is never escaping you if you get in range of them. Not only do you get the slow from Cyrilda's, but Voltaic's passive also offers up a slow when you auto an enemy, so the sticking power is just immense. Matchup-wise for Aatrox right now, Mbessa is a matchup you do want to try and avoid because landing your Q with all her mobility is more difficult. Optimal rune page for Aatrox consists of Conquer with Triumph, Haste, and Last Stand, while Second Wind and Revitalize are for secondaries. Taking home a top 3 spot for a second patch in a row for jungle is going to be Warwick. Warwick has slowly but surely gained a ton of relative power throughout Season 14, as many junglers have been nerfed while he's been left untouched, and it's finally ballooned into him being a top tier pick. Warwick is receiving a few adjustments himself for this patch, but we aren't expecting them to reduce his power much at all. Warwick plays quite well into many of the highly picked junglers in solo queue right now, as he's winning over 53% of the time into Viego, Lee Sin, Kha'Zix, and Vi. Warwick has a really strong kit for solo queue because he's got the built-in movement speed from W, which amplifies early snowball power, and then all the sustain in his kit makes his skirmish absolutely godlike if he gets a lead. There aren't really any specific junglers that are going to hard counter Warwick, so it's more certain supports that can shut his skirmish power down. Good peel supports like Braum, Janna, or Lulu are ideal to avoid when picking Warwick, so using your ban on one of them is a good idea. The 2-item core that you'll want to be running for every game is Stridebreaker into Blade of the Rune King, and it's situational from then on out. Press the Attack and Lethal Tempo are both viable keystone runes for Warwick. If you're up against more squishy champs, then PTA is going to be more value, but into more tankier comps is where Lethal Tempo will come into play a lot more. With Graves nerfed even further for 14.0 14.24, a jungler you should really consider picking up is Wukong. Wukong is a jungler who can play very well into Graves, so the matchup becomes even more Wukong favored this patch with Graves' Q damage nerf. Picking Wukong when the enemy comp is majority AD is where you'll get the most value out of him due to his armor stacking passive. Interestingly though, the only champs that Wukong actually has a negative win rate against in solo queue right now are Diana, Elise, and Amumu, and all three of those junglers deal majority magic damage. Diana is the one matchup in specific where Wukong is struggling the most, so she's a good ban to consider. The build you should be running on Wukong consists of a Trinity Force Rush into Sundered Sky 2nd and Sterix Gauge 3rd. For the rune page, it's Conqueror with Triumph Alacrity and Last Stand, while Freeboots and Cosmic Insight are for secondaries. Not a whole lot going on in regards to jungle changes for this patch, so back in the top 3 is going to be Nocturne. Nock is just an all-around really solid jungle pick right now. He clears well, does grubs very well, skirmish is great, and the catch power with his R gives him the ability to punish enemies' mistakes better than most junglers. In solo queue, it's all about trying to fight around numbers advantages, and with Nocturne's R, he's able to join fights or start fights that are in his team's favor. Nock excels even more in the lower ranks because players are a lot more careless about their positioning and won't respect the threat of Nocturne's R as much. The one matchup that Nock is really struggling against in meta right now is Wukong, so he's who we'd recommend you ban. Core build for Nock turns him into a free kill machine, as Stridebreaker with Hexplate makes his catch power with R incredibly deadly. The rune page you'll take consists of Conqueror with Triumph Alacrity and Last Stand, while Eyeball Collection and Ultimate Hunter are for secondaries. A mid lane champ who should be in a really great spot for 14.24 and joining the top 3 is Victor. Riot's just straight up buffing Victor in multiple different ways, with every single one of his abilities receiving a buff. Q shield is up and E mana cost is down, so the early game laning strength of Victor sees a nice boost. Teamfight impact of Victor is getting better too, as the big change is to Victor's R, with it growing in size and having its duration extended with each takedown you get. There are 2 viable builds that you can run on Victor right now. The first being Ludens into Lichbane is going to work best against comps that are squishy. Into more bruisers or tanks, Blackfire with Leandries will be of great value. Matchup wise for Victor, Sylas is definitely going to be one of his better ban choices moving forward, because a Sylas stealing Victor R with how much more powerful its extended fight strength is won't be fun to play against. The standard rune page setup consists of Aerie with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, while Shield Bash and Bone Plating are for secondaries. Back in the top 3 for mid lane for yet another patch, as one of the best mids to close out Season 14 is Ahri. When a champ not only has a very high play rate, but their win rate is high as well, it's a clear indication of a powerful champ, and that's what we have with Ahri right now. She's the most played mid lane champ in the game while holding an above average win rate. We got to this point due to many mid lane champs who were around Ahri's power level getting nerfed, like Sylas, Hui, Syndra, and now LeBlanc for this patch. Ahri is one of the few meta mids who has avoided any nerfs over the past few months, so everything is stacked up in her favor. The meta build for Ahri is all about reducing the cooldown of her R as low as possible. Ahri is at her best when she has R available, and she's a shell of herself without the spell, so by going Malignance into Horizon Focus, you get a ton of ability haste. There isn't really a specific matchup that hard counters Ahri, as she can at least go even in the majority of her matchups. With that said, Sylas is one matchup that can be more annoying to play against, as a Sylas with Ahri R can be quite difficult to contain, so he's a good ban. The rune page for Ahri revolves around Electrocute with Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Ultimate Hunter, while Mana Flow and Transcendence are the best secondaries. With minimal mid lane changes for 14.24, there's no reason to remove Vex from the top 3. As a matter of fact, Vex gets even better for this patch because a matchup that she already plays very well into, being LeBlanc, is getting nerfed. Vex held a 55% win rate in the LeBlanc matchup during 14.23, so that number will balloon up to an even more egregious level for 14.24. One matchup you're definitely going to want to consider banning for this patch when playing Vex is Victor. Victor should see a really big play rate spike, and with how his W works, it's difficult for Vex to catch out Victor with her R. Victor can just throw down his W on top of himself when you try to dive in with R, which limits your ability to snowball in the matchup. The best core build for Vex revolves around a Luden's Rush into Shadowflame's 2nd and Zanya's or Rabadon's 3rd. Look to pick up Electrocute for the Keystone rune with Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Ultimate Hunter, while Mana Flow and Transcendence are the optimal secondaries. Moving back into the top 3 for ADC for this patch is going to be Misfortune. MF got a nice buff to her Q mana cost in 14.23, which gives her more power with full-out lethality builds instead of relying on Essence Reaver. Ghostblade Rush is now performing better than anything else on Misfortune and is what you should be prioritizing. Ghostblade with the Collector and Cyrilda's Grudge is a really strong 3-item core for lethality MF. Your R just hits super hard with this build, while your autos and Q deal a bunch of burst as well, so that your upfront damage is really high. Besides the buff to Misfortune's Q, we also have seen a bunch of ADCs nerfed as of late, like Kate, Kai'Sa, Corki, and Ashe, so it's another factor in Misfortune being quite strong again. A good ban to use when picking Misfortune right now is Mbessa, as it's incredibly difficult to contain the champ by yourself in a fight if you don't have teammates who can peel for you. Look to grab First Strike for the Keystone rune with Free Boots, Biscuits, and Cosmic Insight, followed by Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm for secondaries. Back in the top 3 for another patch who continues to be one of the most underrated ADCs in the game is Sivir. There have been so many changes over the past few months that have led to Sivir jumping past the majority of ADCs in strength, ranging from direct buffs to item changes and other ADCs getting nerfed. Sivir is definitely the most reliable ADC that you can pick right now, as her kit allows her to be effective without relying on her teammates as much as other ADCs. There are currently 2 viable builds that you can run on Sivir, as Essence Reaver or Wild Arrows are both rushable options. Wild Arrows into Infinity Edge provides a crazy amount of attack damage, so it's the build we'd recommend you run if you're not as competent mechanically. If you're confident in your mechanical skill, then going for a build that relies on auto-weaving much more with Essence Reaver into Flicker Blades is the alternative. One matchup that you may want to consider banning when picking Sivir is Vayne, as it's hard to get any value out of Sivir's spell shield in the matchup. Sivir's best rune page consists of Lethal Tempo with Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Cutdown, while Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm are for secondaries. And for the final ADC to round out the top 3 for this patch, we've got Kog'Maw. Kog was nerfed recently and has seen his play rate drop a substantial amount, but his win rate hasn't really gone down much at all, so players dropping the champ are definitely overvaluing the nerfs. The best thing about Kog right now is that he can be played as an AP or AD carry. It's the best of both worlds and makes Kog'Maw one of the better blind picks, because you're never going to run into a game to where your team is all AD or all AP. AP is definitely going to be a bit better suited as well if you're playing with a melee engaged support, because their CC lockdown guarantees that your spells will land. Vice versa, if you're paired up with an enchanter support, then it's going to give the on-hit AD builds more strength. Being an ADC who lacks a gap closer, Kog does not like playing into comps who have heavy dive, so using your ban on Nocturne is good value right now. Kicking off the top 3 for support is going to be Tahm Kench. Tahm has really shot up in priority for support over these past few patches and is a great solo carry pickup for a few different reasons. First is that unlike most other melee supports, Tahm actually builds purely for himself and bypasses any of the traditional support items. Heartsteel is the best rush item for Tahm Kench, and it offers up a lot of carry power on completion. Not only are you super tanky with the item, but you deal a very respectable amount of damage as well, which helps immensely in skirmishes. Tahm fares fairly well matched up against most other melee supports, as he's going to win the 2v2 skirmishes against the majority of them. Tahm feasts in matchups like Alistar, Rel, Blitzcrank, Leona, and Nautilus, because all those champs need to get in melee range to be effective, and Tahm counters that really well. Some ranged matchups can be a bit more tricky, so using your ban on Senna or Nami is a good idea. The rune page for Tahm consists of Grasp, with Shield Bash, Second Wind, and Unflinching, followed by Triumph and Alacrity for secondaries. Tahm is definitely the best melee support that you can play right now, but when it comes down to a ranged carry from the support role, Vel'Koz is on another level. It's been a while since Vel has been the optimal mage support over champs like Zyra and Brand, but that became a reality a few patches back when Vel got some nice cooldown buffs that pushed him over the top. The long-range poke from Q allows for Vel'Koz to make the enemy ADC's laning phase extremely difficult. Whenever the enemy is looking to last hit a cannon minion, threatening with Q and looking to combo that into a true damage proc with E and W can set you up for a really nice trade. Level 6 is where you become a monster with Vel'Koz, and is a spike that you should be playing towards. Just a simple Q into R combo is going to chunk the enemy ADC for half their health, which gives you a lot of kill pressure. Matchup-wise for Vel, he's really only more vulnerable against champs who can close the gap quickly and get right on top of you, so Pyke is a good ban in that case. The optimal core build for Vel'Koz revolves around Horizon Focus with Liandry's, while Realm Spike is the best item upgrade. Pick up Comet for the Keystone Rune with Mana Flow, Absolute Focus, and Scorch, while Cheap Shot and Relentless Hunter are for secondaries. When it comes down to carrying with an enchanter in the support role, there's nobody better than Nami right now. The lane power of Nami is what sets her apart from many other enchanters, as the versatility her W provides is amazing. The fact it's point and click allows for Nami to trade really well, and she doesn't even need to land her Q to come out on top. At the same time though, if you really master Nami and can hit Q and R consistently, then the sky's the limit for how impactful you can actually be with her. Champs with longer range catch power are who Nami is going to be more vulnerable against, so banning out Blitzcrank is a good idea. Nami fares best into champs who don't have that instant catch and burst strength, because she wants to be able to utilize her W sustain to gain health advantages. The build you should be running on Nami consists of an Imperial Mandate Rush with Dreammaker for the item upgrade, and then it's situational from then on out. Pick up Aerie for the Keystone Rune with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, while Bone Plating and Revitalize are for secondaries. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So that's going to conclude our final solo carry list for Season 14. Good luck with your end of season climbs, and we'll see you back soon.